Hello, species value nature system. This is an emergency meeting on the nature of volume for humanity to understand, because this course has been obfuscated since ancient time. Ancient times, the phenomena of the value of areas and of states was valuing how we are a nature of volume inherently, actively, and progressively. Simultaneously, why and how we are valued simultaneously as an individual, simultaneously as a grouped value, and simultaneously as a species nature of volume. This everything is in demonstration of how we are an expanding nature of volume. By an identity also semi before and semi after, not just before and after, but as a value that is gaining before and after of two other semi-natures of its complete nature, which these three semi-natures are also in three semi-natures of invisible, discernible, still discernible, scientific natures of volume, and with the other two. So Leith of Hades and heaven and hell. These concepts originally were revealed by the campus Marcius, which was value with and as the value of the republic for which we stand, which was value distinctly and non-distinctly only as positive or negative value nature in relationship to what makes that positive or negative only when it's still positive together. This everything is this every complete identity of value, individually, grouped, and all together at once. Every identity of value progression, all space, nature, planets, everything together at once has this identity of value that is a magnitude of value before and after distinctly as semi-natures that are filling their own value as nature, nature as value simultaneously, distinctly, and not distinctly. My theory is that the ancients, before sciences became criminally foreign influences, the internation sciences. Internation sciences, not only did they become criminally foreign influenced, they did it realizing that no one would realize they were doing that to affect people not trusting and devaluing the value of internation sciences with the value and treatment of their own. And so having to devalue the science, having to blame the real causes of negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures, originally completely innocently as victims, but blaming it on other things and on others and on themselves, and progressively that way, having been propagated the phenomenon of semi-ancient criminal re-engineering of what was ancient nature of science revealed actually as what the method of what's going to cause positive or negative value nature progressions, evolution and its fruits and gifts, which is not leaving out the ground. We have movements to claim it as an environmental change because that we have the intersciences, how they share an identity in exploitation and of each age simultaneously. This is in a crime method. I'm not a police form, not a criminal, not a lawyer, not a doctor. I'm going to demonstrate to you how, as an expert, I'm an expert on the nature of English grammar, which is about the identity of algebra. Value G, letter G is simultaneously distinct and non-distinct from and as, inseparable as the value of God as algebraic variable, because we don't know what's true always and has all exceptions at the same time as that truth, which is in demonstration to us. We're using science, but this science is being forbid free speech, not by accident. We've been all the surface values of the Constitution have never been let simultaneous defenses for a crime method missed by everyone because of how everyone was made victims, blaming other things other than themselves as roles with identities of the ground value. See the facade of buildings, pathology of infrastructure, right in line with what that was, which was too the fact treatment slavery of American founders, of the founders of every other nation too. How that was maintained is how this is first a completely a human fact treatment nature identity theft racket. The identity and its course in nature's value as its course, as its the perfect value nature relate. In other words, this is the identity of volume expanding. This is the cause for what lifts and gifts us here. The fruits of evolution, actual. That doesn't separate the ground and waters to make fake evolution, fake positive. The first part of the Quran and the first part of the Old Testament, all this time never left voice in collusion with what they are supposed to be about someday when they have free speech. They didn't have it yet because the branches are still criminal and serious nature, high predators, roles for what is worse. But it's every modern nation in this they knew as an identity as identities of fact treatment nature as the same identity of negative value nature progression self-valuing it only let realized juxtaposed to roles natures needs and interests private overt criminal enterprises inter campuses into branch from off the ground of education its value and then on off campuses, all natures of them since semi-ancient times. Each age of fact treatment nature again, worse than never having had legal representation. Our founding fathers, fact treatment nature, slavery not let told. Our American history not let told, not understood. It's been pretending things intercultural, using a crime method of pretending to be against prejudice, knowing consciously they are where our organized crime roles, self-value as victim predators, how raged each branch distinctly and non-distinctly, where they make jobs and value nature systems that are other than actual value nature's actual course for us. Allah's name with value G, it's the figure. This is algebra. This is about logic's identity in relationship to how it is an identity of volume that is filling constantly as what lives here or as was forced away from here as negative value nature for positive value nature progression somewhere else because it will only gain perfectly and will only continue to gain positive value nature here. So here, as Earth's distinct and non-distinct space nature relationship, we have dishonest opinions with theories on our positions in space because with each of the sciences criminally foreign influences, again, from off the ground of education and then on off of the campuses and layers, because they knew that they maintain roles with criminal insidious nature, each age of fact treatment nature, they would have the phenomenon of people self-valuing a pathology of relationship to nature that was set up to cause negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures to be maintained, blamed on other things, others themselves. We have physical delusions with their treatments of each value, only that heard through generations. That's not through that theory. These are overall things needs forced, sustained, needed, said because and while they're only letting her ill premises treatment natures. Physical delusions about the validity of what they could check on paper with logic and about their honesty with that and about the means to the criminal influences of intercampuses shared nations individually grouped and together since before modern nations to the defenses of identities that as victim predators that were only realized capable of valuing the real causes of negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures, called blame to other things, others themselves, because the original value of each nation's nature of preservation of perfection of understanding of the identity that inventions work or not in relationship to, further positive or negative or not in relationship to, understanding this identity's identity of relationship to itself and the value of that is what is the science that causes evolution and or causes it forth from here leaf of IDs. And it's not complicated, it's just way more expensive. Always this is true. While as each exception nature. This is an obligation to our quality of fact treatment nature. Like for example, this is gonna fall. It's gonna go down. I have to use reality that is true always, not denying exceptions. So I say if you say what goes up must come down, they say. But if you shoot something into space, then it could never come down. In other words, for example, and then if those kind of exceptions are being exploited and having been exploited, they knew each branch would. They're on TV saying, "Oh, if you guys talk about us." They're offensive, threatening, torture, identity theft racket roles. Each modern nation, states, and areas, federal natures of federal police forms for how we have shared policing, for how everyone's a victim, predator of types of jobs of the law. You can't defend that. In other words, we're in an identity of negative value nature progression since semi-ancient times. It's just your mind. So immediate means are to accept this science as pantheism, as a counterposition to convictions in relationship to evidence perception regarding ancient history and evidence perception intersciences. Quality of fact treatment nature, not just inherently actively progressively, finite. Active and progressive inside each value too, that each nature is inseparable from each other, each one. This is in other words, our nature of volume's nature of relationship to itself, which is where and how each identity of value individually grouped and together are simultaneously as a complete identity of value. It's simultaneously a semi-nature relationship to the only semi-nature that is also a complete nature and is also always a complete nature, which is in demonstration of this again, as we'll see, 5 semi-natures. For example, the inherent, active, and progressive. In other words, what was value before this as this nature of it, where there is value a little bit before and gaining through our value as forever nature. Only the extent of it is debatable. See, but we're now in value nature systems that are again in collusion with a crime method against each age of fact treatment nature simultaneously. But not only is it off the records and having been ignored and self-valued, no one realizes and no one understands except for way short needing to realize their own needs to hide life progressions. Life progression cover up nature's needs and styles of each branch, each nature of court, each nature of police form, victim predators, child abuse, to spots with the value treatments. We're going to learn how not each letter word is a value, is physical value as positive or negative in relationship to what is in demonstration of positive's identity. With the beginning of the Old Testament, there is the voice of God, what we think is God. We know this is, in other words, the subject is value as nature, and it is nature as value simultaneously, distinctly, and non distinctly. This is about the identity that generated matter. As an identity of value before matter, while being matter, while being matter as our value, as its criminal re-engineered value, and as our reaction to that value. And that's it, in other words. This is worse than, in other words, convicting that in other words, the fact treating nature quality that pretends that that's just semantics or rhetoric, if they call it environment or what wording they use, is needing to defend themselves offensively. Again, with live progression cover up nature's needs and styles. Each age of fact treating nature is a victim predator of a different nature of organized crime. Even it's overt, but it's subtle. In other words, it's recorded too. That's why I put so much time into saying things online that they have to lie about for their own personally criminal reasons. Because the phenomena I explained, where I have experience that most people don't have. In other words, and there are people that pretend that I spoke about types of things online that I never did. And as people that pretend I had conversations with them never were from my town. These are medical people, interbranch cliques, military, foreign and domestic juxtaposed. Before DACA, before all these trade agreements, right through the ones now, there is what each modern nation is hurt sickly by originally and still in layers, having engineered natures as value and value as nature simultaneously to styles in layers, blaming the real causes for negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures on other things and selves. That is a consciously maintained negative value nature progression stream tool, the caravans, real or made up, in relationship to the nature of organized crime that each modern nation has recorded victim predator roles with. That could be instantly overcome. Right? Everyone, the species nature of volume agrees. Correlation nature is simultaneously inherent, active, and progressive means with American history told true, with other nations' histories told true. We see the facade of businesses of value nature systems means to afford things worse than ill. There is no pill but way, which is this. It's real science. It's not pretending that's just rhetoric. It's not pretending that people should sue for rights, where and as and how they're consciously knowing that these are roles with a whole bunch of natures and methods of organized crime. In other words, and or roles with that. In other words, criminal and seditious natures. Whole bunch of roles lying and motives to lie and hurt people and pretend for natural reasons. But through influences maintaining each identity of the ground, needing to blame the real and value having been blamed, not even realizing it. All as victims, but all as victim predators. In other words, that law is not a title. Titles have been maintained effectively, victim predators incapable of being the identity of justice that is also positive unto itself. They are the value of lethal Hadiths in value nature systems designed to motivate and to maintain fact treatment nature, pretending positive what is causing and having means to pretend positive by demonstrating it having everyone separated from this course, that the science of, you know, what is using the relationship between positive and negative value nature progressions and value as nature, which is we are, and we are nature as value, simultaneously, distinctly, and non-distinctly, again in relationship to an identity, the algebra that each of the sciences share as subject value, and as value relationship to itself, the perfect value nature progression, values nature's progression as its own value, as identity, nature, and demonstration to us. Each cell of your body is a complete identity of value, and it shares that complete. It shares the value of what is value to itself, positive or negative, coming through, and with how all the cells as complete bodies, they are simultaneously unceasing semi-natures in relationship to the complete identity of the organs they share. And those organs are simultaneously unceasing semi-nature relationships to our complete identity of value. And our complete identity of value, again, is simultaneously unceasing semi-nature relationship to this perfect values nature's volume as values progression. Perfect. So it forces more of its volume here because it's only going to keep making more volume of positive that is temporary / lasting positive that is also positive onto itself. This Trinity is in demonstration of it by this value again. Also with two other semi-natures that are incompatible with these inherent active and progressive nature. Only compatible to be able to be this because of our value as simultaneously. For a little bit more of the integrity that is only compatible with this nature of nature in the first place. This is nature's nature. Nature's nature. Or no, it's nature's nature. Because it's nature's identity of value. I mean, identity of a relationship to itself and the value of that. That identity of relationship to itself that Allah has as the subject of the value of English letters, words, and sentences. It is as a nature, as a / the nature of volume. Each individual or grouped, concentrated on identity of value, for example, referring to it as a nature of value. And the nature of value, which is, again, even the identity bigger. This is the identity that will always be bigger than right to left, as the identity that is right to left, no matter how big identities of value progression get, individually grouped together. And again, this is about Earth's simultaneously distinct, non-distinct relationship to the rest of space nature, which is where and how. In other words, where the place where it can discern it can show its own identity. White and black, night and day. This isn't demonstrated. These are bonded. White they say reflects all colors, and black absorb. In other words, this is one body of value that is expanding in demonstration of sequence nature, which is forever nature and demonstration of itself. How? Of five semi-natures inseparable. The Trinity is being filled as what makes more of its value here because it's coming more and more with the simultaneous value. That's our simultaneous value. As our value relationship to each other that is of a nature that allows more of its identity to come into the space nature. If that's not allowed, it's going to keep coming anyway. So boom, Leith of Hades. It forces Earth simultaneously distinct and non-distinct value nature relationship to the rest of its complete identity. Forces it from here. It's not going to slow down because we did. It's going to keep making positive value nature somewhere else. It's going to make the value of our negative value nature for its evolution there. Leads of ideas, heaven and hell. This is science. This is not an environmental problem. This is completely a fact treatment nature racket problem. This is recorded. I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a police, I'm not a criminal. This is recorded. What really originally and still facilitates and motivates roles with the overt criminal enterprises. Them as fake differences with people and stuff like that. Oh, I don't even like that person. They don't even know people. These are tool natures as factory nature in relationship to only realize since some ancient times natures of branches of states and areas. Too fast and too slow. Sick with factory nature value. That's why we have the facade of businesses. That's why we have natures of people don't even realize how they have free speech stolen since founding, pounding drums. They are preventing mandated law by using the crime method, pretending that people should sue for rights. While they have crime methods also recorded, forging names, switching names. In other words, they already have the various natures of courts involved with the area's crimes. These are other natures of crimes juxtaposed with the shooters. And not by accident, all the things that are happening in cases that are real, and when they're framing people, they're also framing the people that all responses they're lying about. This is an identity theft of each individual group dash sex and age. At the same time, states and areas in collusion, criminally foreign influenced, obligated to by our nature to demonstrate it, and maintained incapable of it for all kinds of reasons, persuaded to it, tricked to it, hurt to it, worse. And that's the only realized outcome. Each age of correlation nature with its simultaneously inherent, active, and progressive means not left free speech. There are recorded identity theft rackets forcing child offenders with this, with the women roles. Just because people have abused kids all kinds of ways doesn't mean the motivations were what they're saying are when they catch people, then they pretend that because in other words, then they make them go by their crazy theories they have with psychology, with a whole bunch of nations using their psychology theories, conspiracy theories, and stuff like that. Evidence reception crime rules, acts and natures, also delusions raw, especially right where they have psychology, right where we need legitimacy with logic's identity and value. See, that's how we have motivated. They're facilitated to collusion, crime groups in other nations with the states and areas. That's how we have interstate problems with the drugs manifest, not because of money. That's because the money with other nature's interests and counters to it all and all that stuff, that's maintained as a breaching method to keep all juxtaposed as motives, natures, and needs as breaching screens, as breaching tools and weapons since founding, pounding drums. The identities of our founders are stolen still, and that's value because we didn't follow correlation, we didn't free speech. We left offensive predatory branches, insidiously valuing how all kinds of natures of motivations, roles in nature is formal, with the intercampuses, abuses, sickly, distinctly inter areas of America, of each modern nation. So how do you know he never came down here? It's recorded every time they speak. And American history starts here. And this is why George Washington had to leave overt slavery with color right before the last battle of the Revolutionary War, even with the French general's help, because nations already individually grouped and together were identities that they could not defend themselves, and their roles with lie progressions from each database relationship. That is a database tied from each identity of the ground value justification, conviction nature justification, opinion nature value justification nature, quality of fact treatment nature. That's why I'm using these terms. We're going to use terms like criminal insidiousness nature because we're going to play the New York game, and we're going to use negative value nature. The New York game is separate, but I'm saying we're going to play the that's part of it. This is interstates, and we need the pantheism. Nations have the right for pantheism right now. Put a platform, to and with the agenda of enabling a value nature system, everyone means access. It needs to counter a tactically denatured relationship to nature, identity of the ground's value, which to value our own value, we're supposed to. This is what Native Americans are trying to find words to counter where and as and how we have offensive evidence reception predators. Interbranch, into every person, nation, A through Z, through justifications of quality of fact treatment nature through time. All we needed is recorded. The species value is right there to leverage against what pathology pretends it even could even speak for positive. And all this time, it's still playing out nuclear weapons for counters from a tactically denatured relationship to nature, zoning laws, self-valued, glorified even, pathology of infrastructure that before cars was forced for the torture of, semi-unsafe, not by accident, forced as roles to build and to maintain tactically denatured relationships to nature, everyone reliant upon value nature systems tactically ulterior from the one that causes positive value nature progressions. Everyone needing, again, not by accident, to blame the real causes of negative value nature progressions, action natures, on other things, to value it through the phenomena how private roles were engineered, juxtaposed with overt criminal enterprises, with other nations, armies, and all that in defense of securities and relate through value nature systems worse than negotiated with terrorism and pretending to be against it. And then defending that, you can't defend that and defend ourselves at the same time, not by accident. They measure that self-value, maintain that self-cultivated value for fact treatment nature racket roles. Then I need to just pretend it's titled that, that if it's a cold world, we don't know what to do. We don't have so much time. Always time too slow, too fast, being used criminally to exploit forever nature's in simultaneous means. One way redeems. You think we can't let me know the name of who would complain legally if we try to build people out of the tactically denatured relationship to nature. We don't, in other words, just using what we could. How many people, if we chop down trees, give stones, move brooks and streams, dig deep. In other words, do we have a tactically nature relationship to nature that nature will demonstrate until we have our value, valuing our nature of sciences and demonstration of this identity they share simultaneously, distinctly and non-distinctly, and simultaneously, and the value of that, and the value by that, more and more, as here or as force from here, lethal IDs. So in the beginning of the Old Testament, the voice of God is separate, is saying, "Oh, so I separate the firmament from this. That this is actually this is good. So I do it more, dividing. There's a quality of diffusion that is instantaneously bringing more and more of its own value into and as the value of temporary slash lasting space nature's value, which will only increase as the nature of volume that is coming through, you know, that is only making more positive value nature volume. And when it can't make more, it forces it from here. In other words, that's what's being described. In other words, that's why it's starting here. But this is a story like to show how discernment of what is most probable and what is demonstrated by actual science, true always, not exploiting exception nature, where you could see, in other words, out of sequence, I'm telling, but this is, in other words, in sequence, this is before matter was generated, before anything could collide, it had to be generated. This is self generation, one identity of value, which is the identity of space, which is a semi nature, which is the identity of reality, which is a semi nature. It's a changing thing, and it's in our range of understanding not. And but this is again per an identity of means to that modern identities, the ground, modern fact treatment nature justifications of quality of fact treatment nature branches individually together and grouped are high predators, crime methods, wire crime methods, mail crime methods, motivations, roles, nature's needs for this, to blame other for how they're already maintained since before anyone was born effectively and still. Intercampuses, whole bunch of nations categorically, and with the overt criminal enterprises. It's not by accident everyone's with the same, all these different nations, suits and ties, the counters to them with notions of democracy. How come no one ever says mandated law? Democracy. What good is democracy, or the republic? What good is it if mandated law is not followed? What good is it if each exploitation of exception nature and of time? And again, This is a nature that this built nature to roll self-valuing a whole bunch of fake sides of correlation nature everywhere because everyone's a knave, so they have to value that inherently, actively, and progressively. This is nature itself demonstrating that. It's not going to stay these fake systems. You think, well, the reason we're going to space, the length of IDs, it's a demonstration to us. Link TV. Is you guys how you guys are with narratives, for example, victims, but victim predator roles. with the states and areas of modern nations ill, with the natures of science is ill. This is nature's course. I'll drop the force, Bach sings. It tells us things. In other words, with the valuation of value treatments, fact treatment nature, conviction nature. That in other words, just with treatments of agreeing to use the word environment instead of nature. There is a lot tied to that because of the lie progressions, because of the lie progression cover up natures, because the obligations and needs by the nature of the history of each modern nation to use and to understand the what criminal insidiousness nature is. And in other words, what motivates that? That's the only difference between what is black or white. Roles with the same organized crime method, self-valued. Only let realize that. No one understanding because so many natures are juxtaposed. Overt criminal enterprises, self-valued private ones, unrealized ones. In other words, there are private ones that are realized, but we have quality of areas and states, fact-cheating nature, pretending other, that they're not liars. When they, in other words, and where they are, they just say, "Oh, I think that's our nature," because we have motivations, roles with a crime identity theft method that is frustrating each person, making fact cheap nature self-valued each age of it. Correlation nature's identity and Trinity as this filling value of nature of volume. Here, she means appear. The mandate's here. So we just need mandated law followed. We have fake news that stole my identity. WFSB's recorded, confessed, evolved, being coached to sustain crimes on and off campuses through time with people intercampuses, associated with Park Street, associated with intercities like East Hartford, Weathersfield, from Weathersfield into branch, on and off the state judicial branch offices, houses, and business near there. In other words, people associated with UPS crimes with on and off the campuses through time. So if you have a kid who grows up here, if he's not already involved with the rackets, they already had criminal fact cheating nature with high criminals, with formerly, originally, and still, like for Jim Crow laws, Oz in relationship to this is the nature of child abuse that is forcing everyone not realize valuing criminal citizens' natures are positive. So with this, we're going to discern not the identity of positive, how it is the Trinity, and how it is a demonstration of how it is the Trinity as an increasing nature of volume. There are proofs that yin yang was revealed with and as would help reveal alpha and omega. In other words, and English was revealed to teach with this. That's why yin, the feminine, is left to right first. Why alpha, left to right, is first. Because this switches. And that's not that which side is negative or positive. It switches in relationship to the needs by the needs and value nature relationship. Again, per not per these value nature systems, no. In other words, but in relationship to a little bit more of a complete nature coming in, not just as, in other words, but with our value nature. Only that's our simultaneous nature of relationship to ourselves. Is our nature of relationship to ourself because of how it is our relationship to a little bit more of itself that can come in here and be the identity of evolution of its fruits and gifts as this as the and or as what forces it from here. We are value nature inside values nature. And this is our course. Boxings of source, it surges through all things alone. Allah and the other names of God. Of the not of God. The other names of the identity that God is a variable used for scientific expansion of our realization and understanding of the identity again. Not just that inventions work or not in relationship to, but so invisible but still discernible. But as the not just as the identity that inventions are further positive or negative, not in relationship to. Not just as the identity that is the identity of the nature of volume that we are filling more and more. Not just the identity that is the value onto and as the gaining nature of volume that each identity of value of English grammar is, in demonstration to this. This is an identity of value discernment of this identity, Allah, per English. And with this course, we understand that other languages, because there are sounds, these languages individually grouped and together they are bonded. And for the discernment of our value as a nature of volume that is further positive or negative or not in relationship to the identity that is filling our nature of volume as the expansion of its value, where and how as and how it is diffusing through what is positive and negatives relationship to itself with the nature of forever nature, where that is all things at once. Boxings to campus dunce with stolen name. Campus Marcius needs is the name returned. I'll play this game. So this is what I want to do. So I'll train. And I want to switch the colors. Not for jokes and stuff like that. It'll be entertaining, but it'll be more importantly, it'll be the only way and the best way to explain I have discerned the organized crime method against each. The motivations and natures and needs and roles recorded actually with involved with all these gun crimes, knife crimes, poison nature type insidious people, things like that. Motivations for that missed. Standing means to hurt each nature of sophistication. And there is one nature of sophistication, but now we are again all identities of one identity of negative value nature progression individually, here individually grouped and together all identities value, and this is individually grouped together nations, individually grouped and together languages. These sounds, these 26 sounds of the English language have an identity of relationship to themselves, and they have the value of that. They are an identity of value. They are an identity of relationship. They are identity of nature. The identity of nature's identity of relationship to itself and are the value of that. Again, as a gaining nature of volume. Again, as the discernment of the identity of the simultaneous nature that is truth as what any truth could be is when it's truth, as the value of truth. But it is true as a nature of truth that is also not having exploited And in other words, and it without it's truth that is also has exceptions, which is another nature of truth. In other words, you can make convictions that you throw something up or something goes up, it's going to come down. But if you shoot something up into space, it's not going to come down. Say, for example, that triggers something in space that makes, we're in zero gravity, but that's positive or negative. And this is the course about how this is what is positive or negative. It's only going to stay positive onto itself, all three natures at once. So this is the science of understanding what's going to be positive to the finite, to what is active, and to what is progressive in relationship to this identity. Our identity's identity of relationship to itself. Boxings, it tells us things. The science is sharing identity, obfuscated, worse than obfuscated since some ancient times. It just reminds. For like example, they put the the narratives with the truth regarding the truth with I forgot what they got. Queensberry rules for boxing. And then they describe sophistication, how it brought sophistication to the sport. Because they made, since semi ancient times, they made roles valuing criminally foreign influence sciences, valuing the criminally foreign influence sciences from times before them. Roles with them because of nations shared. Is this why they have each age of fact treatment? They value it hurt because they need culture, self value as what needs to value identities of jobs and of titles. Only capable they raise the victim predators. By the time they realize it, the only way they're capable of defending their value is in relationship to contrast, not correlation nature's identity, which is again a trinity. We have each age of fact achieving nature consciously, methodically maintained, sickly, forced to value, not even realized for how, forced to value um, the identity of correlation nature, non-discernment by others because of the nature of child abuse. That is simultaneously a method a method against each age of fact achieving nature. In the trap that originally still maintained knowing it would keep all valuing roles with titles and identities of value, identity of the relationship to the identity of grounds valued, you know, let that, database relationships, identity theft rackets roles, roles with a method of it that are manifested a whole bunch of methods of liars, whole bunch of shared means to hide it, facilitated, then exploited, maintained, exploited, perfected crime method, the organized crime method of the devil. The beginning of the Quran is also about when they're talking about they're talking about two different natures of unbelievers, or three different natures of unbelievers. Unbelievers that don't understand, but they're not trying to get over, like they're not trying to be interstate scenarios or internation criminal enterprise wrongdoers or liars of that nature of organized crime. In other words, that's what when they're using the word wrongdoers with English translations of the Old Testament. I mean of the Quran. The Old Testament and the Quran, distinctly and non-distinctly, both of them have never had free speech. Let demonstrate what they're in demonstration of right in the beginning. The value as nature and nature as value the subject of the beginning of the Quran and the subject of the beginning of the Old Testament, the part where it says, all you need to understand is right here. That part is never get let voice through generations. They're maintaining states and areas to the defense as sensibilities effectively maintain breaching method maintained self-valued, self-cultivated roles as nature's propagated, already having valued and valuing each age of each person, group, dash, sex, and altogether, even through helped, even helping their own kids, through valuing each system other, hurting them. In other words, keeping all criminal and serious nature self-valued, pretending oh it's the right, we can't sue the government. But criminally saying that because there are exceptions where we can, because they've been, in other words, there have been criminally foreign influence cases originally and still. Treatments of time, they're recorded and confessed, effectively maintained. They don't even know what they confess. In other words, when they say cold world, that's just how things are. The money, it's the money. Forget it's not money with why we couldn't afford to have the better means for elderly. We have not one nature of industry, not one nature of person, not forced to victim roles. So to one thing you value that where everyone's invested victims and then predators, pseudo-positive. They can't even defend themselves. And stand free speech with simultaneously inherent correlation nature, simultaneously inherent active and progressive means. Can't defend the surface value of the Constitution, rights to religion, this way, so they have the religion, states, and areas. They have pretended care for them with physical delusions, with criminal foreign influence takes on what is practical. And then with sensibilities and respect for that, at the same time, then when people need to have their personal religious rights defended is not realized. This is a system actual, always the complete system that is actual forever nature's course. When our nature of volume is being valued positive onto itself, the identity of positive, the identity of the Trinity, the identity that is gaining our nature of volume as its own. This is the self generating. And this is the value of the auto creator, Romulus. So I just need complete artistic control of New York City and of Hartford. And we could have the whole world we could heal. Each state will help and feel. The heartbeat pump and all will breathe. How many places in nature can go, we have a negative value nature progression, self-value. They need the value of those value streams. They need people desperate, states and areas of each modern nation hurt. Each age of correlation nature again made effectively the same exact non-distinctly through criminal foreign influences, each modern nation has maintained her, effectively having kept and keeping it valued. The real the causes of this, this reality has caused to a negative value nature progressions, acts and natures. They're recorded being blamed on other things other than themselves, with physical delusions, and through criminal foreign influences, through hurt, through torture, through persuasions, and worse. Methodically, it's not complicated. See, we don't have mandated law followed. That's why you have to see Anthony Walsh. That's why they also had to steal my identity with Facebook pages and then switch their narratives with things. There are various natures of courts, foreign and domestic police, again, since before DACA, since before these trade agreements. The nations are recorded victim quality of fact, human nature can't defend themselves and follow mandated law. They're recorded not with even our Congress people, recorded not with sophistication capable of countering all that recorded, confessed, and demonstrated criminally involved leading up to a 2006 case with a whole bunch of defendants and other federal criminals tied to them with crime rolls with kids through a house slash S in my area, also involved with identity thefts against me, against others, and natures of identity theft with various natures of courts, them facilitated to it through time. Now with child offenders associated with Phil Collo, who also is involved with two Mendez police that pretended they had conversations with me, pretended things, and pretended that by pretending police equipment recorded things, and then just writing the name of police equipment. These are people involved with crimes with a proven principal child offender. These are people also having been facilitated to crimes with retired and standing interbranch judges and people involved with prisons and stuff like that with kids. In other words, doctors involved with them. A whole bunch of people associated with Middletown, like a Harbor Park. FBI people associated with a Mayano family. A whole bunch of other people with Fox Connecticut News and WFSB News, and with the retired and standing sources. Their roles with identity theft crime acts, fake news crime acts, stealing people's identity. In other words, criminally pretending that's just their job. Their sources are recorded and confessed in collusion with them. In other words, they'll deny that they if a person puts a gun on you and threatens you, and then you say he didn't say anything or made a confession or something with that, and then you say, "Well, this person threatened me," and they say, "Well, I didn't say that," and they try pretending that it's semantics. These are also people recorded with interbranch standing, not just retired and private with Fox Connecticut News. These are people also involved with, again, what was criminal since before DACA and then through it, associated with Brian Bonin, recorded, confessed, involved with, as a victim, but then as victim predators. These are people I don't know that at all. And people that like Brian Bonin that I barely know, only in the context associated with this Kevin Dillon and a Sean Dillon and an Anna Dillon, recorded, confessed, involved with child offenders with a Kerr family too, and different spellings of their names. Regardless if that is the people online, those are people recorded and confessed by the courts distinctly and non-distinctly through time, criminally involved with them. A whole bunch of natures of crimes against each age of fact, human nature, facilitated against me. And those people also recorded and confessed and demonstrated the same thing. And these are also the branches and them distinctly and non-distinctly recorded, confessed, and demonstrated involved with overt criminal enterprises. And with private ones recorded, confessed, and demonstrated self-value, originally and still. That's, in other words, well, we debate the extent of things, but that's what the value of offering minimum wage to someone in the forsaken north end of Hartford. Worse than forsaken, because this is torture method upon them. This is a breaching organized crime method. That's upon Hartford and Wethersfield. But this is where the sequence starts with American history. Boxings, I tell you things that'll all be told. So in other words, as soon as you guys wake up, we can set up the business. Someone has to believe. And it doesn't have to be New York. We'll just take over for them and we'll put that state with rewards first in the sequence. In other words, if it's not New York first or Hartford first, Someone respond. Because once we have response, then we're moving because then we have a helper. When we set up, we're going to set up the self-owned for a method owned by a virtual autocrator, a virtual Romulus that liberates the Forsaken, a method. You have to admit it first. We don't have formal legal natures that will do it because they were offensively kept maintained breaching method rules. There are real bad, thick, sick things. And these are in value natures systems that can't afford, not by accident. In other words, these are unfree markets. These are unfree competition means. These are all natures of election crimes for the people pretending to be against it. They're facilitated to this. I mean, these are some of the ways they're maintained by one method effectively, criminally foreign influence states and areas. Delusions raw. Worse, altogether. And simultaneously, each age of fact, cheap in nature. This is free speech. Weathersfield schools, intercity schools, we have further child offenders. We have further fake news, crime acts rolls with it. They're ducking behind something they have to do with Russians. I'm not saying because this Russian lady, there are people, Russian families, recorded and confessed involved and demonstrating involved with a Justin Kavinskis. His wife, Lucinda, I don't know her. They're involved, confessed and recorded with database crimes, crimes with drugs, natures of identity thefts, crimes with military police, with foreign and domestic. They were facilitated to it. They don't know the extent of their confessions to me and others. I never had a conversation with this Lucinda. I don't know Lucinda Kovinskis. I guess and they have kids. They demonstrated, and that goes with the confessions and demonstrations that the the Kovinskis made. The Justin Kovinskis. I don't know. I never had a class with him. I barely was in the presence of him. He's also recorded and confessed involved with a Joshua Stryker and with Olson brothers involved with on off Trinity College federal crimes with police forms leading up to, and then in a 2006 district case with federal criminals also and their family members associated with crime acts out off the campuses, and with their co-defendant, former director of the FBI, and with their criminal roles with the police forms and stuff like that, and the roles interbranch with Hartford courts, intercity courts, leading up to that, and with the deposition, and with their roles with foreign and domestic military police. One's associated with Eric Burgess and Emily or Amy, associated with Hartford Superior Court and other natures of Hartford courts and their family members and people associated with them, including doctors criminally involved with them with all natures of formal drug crimes and overt drug crimes, criminal uses of schools. We love locations around schools like Lena's Pizza. This is involved with the formal identity theft rackets and roles and uses of identities and relationships to how they have each job of they have victim predators also associated where we have victims of real medicine and of real healthcare. But see, then we have them involved with all kinds of people with all natures of drug crimes, of database crimes, identity theft, crime acts roles, forging names, switching names with various natures of courts, having already used hospital triages and databases intercampuses criminally through time, and with crime methods that effectively have maintained, effectively motivated the identities of each job associated with the natures of campuses in collusion with from off the ground of education and on off campuses and in layers, criminal foreign influences, identities of roles with what originally still valued the identities of areas criminally foreign influenced, of areas having valued the real causes of negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures blamed on other things, others themselves. Awake ye, sanctus elves, one way alone. Awake, come home. So I'll tell you about the story of Romulus and Remus. And this is about the Republic. And this is partially cipher and decipher. Because this is also in relationship to the nature of organized crime that came in semi-ancient times before the semi-ancient times with the counter of modern religions. Greatly about that, while being about the value of identity the sciences share, while being about Allah and value G distinctly and non-distinctly, with English, left to right, and simultaneously distinctly and non-distinctly with Arabic, right to left. Note, since before the Quran was revealed, thank God, we wouldn't have had algebra. We'd be even more tactically degraded human fact sheet nature, self-valued that way. Hear many pray. I'm saying Hartford, New York, one city, one person who knows that science never spoke for areas, all liars did. Pseudo-positive, not, as criminal insidious nature. Who believes? I'm not a lawyer, not a criminal, not a police form. I recorded means they recorded themselves first. And then I studied it because every time I talk, they have to lie. WFSB is recorded so sickly involved with people threatening me not to defend my own family from what they don't even know has happened. No, and they're pretending when people catch them recorded with sex crime acts, with sexual harassment of the youngest girls and their families through methods on and off campuses through time. These are people involved with this Justin Klavinsky, this Tom Peruta. Other Perutas, that's a Russian family. They repeated to me. That's all I know about them. They sought me out to make those confessions when I was a kid, when in sixth grade. These are people also with a woman who repeated that too at Hartford Hospital. Recorded and confessed involved with a whole bunch of people associated with houses in my area as victims, but as victim predators, coached to crime acts roles with a Leahy family with identity thefts, with a house in my area associated with all the police forms, with their extended family members with identity theft crime acts against me, and with federal criminals that were associated with their friends growing up that I barely only know, and then they put them in campus in classes with me. When I was in high school. In other words, specifically to exploit through time. Whatever they put in databases, they're recorded, confessed, and demonstrated. They're putting lies in database. They're stealing people's identities, and the method they're using to keep this motivated is recorded. Again, this came since before DACA. They're keeping identities of legal identity value as nature, and nature is value simultaneously as criminal insidious nature. And they're keeping them as that so they can't stand correlation nature's simultaneously inherent, active, and progressive means. And they're keeping that facilitated, needed self valued. Everyone missed what keeps this needed self valued by them. This is with them juxtaposed with overt criminal enterprises, all that manifest on and off campuses with the corners of streets, with schools and stuff like that, with houses around the schools, involved with identity theft rackets, database crime acts roles against people, crime method roles bonded by one method that maintain. All I have to do is maintain the overall value of of the identity of states and areas and nation of states and areas, self-valued, propagated, commonly foreign influence originally still. And then they have that forced to be the quality of fact, human nature entertained by presidents. Never the value of chiefs positive onto themselves. So never the value of presidents positive onto themselves. Because states and areas are forcing their value of conviction nature, their value of quality of fact, human nature, their value as victim predators, exploiting and having had exploited exception nature, where there is theater positive that needs to be demonstrated. But they have sensibilities of this as criminal diseases nature, not by accident. Offensively, needing to value the identity theft of the identity thefts of strangers, and then when that's needed voiced by the strangers to them, then they pretend they're not strangers because they met the person. They're gonna say, "Well, when you say I'm doing something wrong, well, wait a minute. Of course you're doing something wrong. You're entertaining a base propagated criminally foreign influence. If you don't admit it, in other words, not just that, they're not following mandated law. They're interbranch rape threats, other natures of crimes with child offenders proven and further with the campuses, criminal uses of the databases, medical crime acts on the kids, attaching kids to fake relationships to others, interbranch family members using their kids with military, also foreign and domestic, on off CCSU facilitated, on off Hunks's college, on off private, Middlesex Community College, on off Wesleyan College, on off CCSU. These are criminal schools with criminal justice, criminal uses of acting departments. On off Harvard stage near Fox Connecticut News, recorded confessed involved with people with identity theft crime acts. When they were kids facilitated to that, now as adults. They walk by you, then they pretend they know you. These are racket crime rolls with databases, positions associated with the Department of Transportation, the victims of what maintains girls exploited by guys that share them and lie to them, but facilitated to it by sick men and women. Interbranch originally still needed to hide life progressions. You know how sick they are with the treatments of kids of each age? And then those people say, "Oh, these people help me value," because then they suck them into a value nature system. Same way the gangs are, the same crime method, fake difference, criminal foreign influence, criminal seriousness nature. It's what motivated roles with such six things as slavery, with such insidious these sick things, effectively maintaining it blamed on all other things and others themselves. They effectively maintained, you know, who tried to learn first, as people not led to learn our species nature of volume. They label them as Uncle Tom, not just naturally per Harriet Beecher Stowe and Mark Twain, recorded and confessed and demonstrated, involved with criminal foreign influences with Connecticut intercampuses since George Washington had to leave overt slavery left in Connecticut right before the last battle of the Revolutionary War. Even with the French general's help, no, he did not chop down the fake branches. And see, they were forcing England to be the identity here in a narrative where it was a whole bunch of nations using the identity of the ground with roles as the same fake sides, human fact, human nature, containment, value containment and exploitation system, a breaching organized crime method, the devil, completely a fact human nature, identity of grounds, value relationship to itself, value, exploitation system, method that has juxtaposed really the furtherance and motivations for the roles with the overt criminal enterprises, with pretending that, with valuing states and areas criminally foreign influenced. That's why they're pretending to be about the care for the kids with the caravan. Meanwhile, they have sick roles in natures with the treatments of kids with each area, even sickly distinctly, even in suburbs. Sickly distinctly to hide how sickly non distinctly. In other words, even in suburbs. At least it's not that forsaken north end of Hartford. Worse than forsaken by the people in the suburbs, by the people with the interbranch pseudo-positive natures. High predators originally still. Fake differences as colors. Physical delusions raw as colors. In relationship to this crime method that only let them be roles as our peak people. States and areas, identity of negative value nature progression. Styles, parts of the body of that negative value nature progression. That is Earth's value fleeting from here. Lethal IDs. If that was the right word. Force from here, force space nature transfer. Nature being within inside itself. Return. Campus Marcius calls you home, please learn. So this way, we can get actors and we can stay. Once we get a nature of value, a platform, everyone can see it. We could also see the nature of that wealth. We could also see the means of it. And we'll also be on the same page with the Burroughs book, the New York Gangs, which means to afford simultaneous natures of relief. Soul relief, not just spirit, as the nature of volume relief, where its values course and means to progress here per its own system is since semi-ancient times incapable of it. Ask Native Americans. Is this a healthy identity of relationship to itself that our value nature system has? You know, they're not with free speech though, and they're tortured not to have free speech too. Sickly, distinctly, and non-distinctly from everyone, even including themselves. Nations, tribes A through Z were divided and conquered, were divided from themselves since before America by the organized crime method since before the founding of before the births of our founders, before the births of our founders' parents. There was already an organized crime method on their education, on their value as fact treatment nature. Everyone blaming the causes of it on other things other than selves. This had already effectively conformed the modern nations to roles with this. The American Indians went down last. Everyone went down. We're all fact treatment nature slaves with stolen identities. That's interbranch recorded. Now we need to have mandated law followed. We can't have them just stealing our identities, lying every time we speak in the background, needing to pretend from their means to use each branch recorded criminally being used. They're just pretending things recorded into records to defend themselves. All we need is recorded for evolution. They're valuing wars and narratives like, it means to pretend oh, this group's going to resurgent. They're making and keeping groups, states, and areas criminally foreign influence, styles, qualities of fact dreaming nature, all ulterior from what the first part of the Quran and of the first part of the Old Testament need to demonstrate what they're actually demonstrating about what is important. For example, for many key points, not by accident, not through generations, not their voice. Even though right in the beginning of the Old Testament says this is the only part you have to understand right here. And this is where it starts, right in the beginning. Matter is already generated. Forget about Scientology too. Out of their minds. I didn't even know. This is the course. Boxing's of source alone. Come on. Campus Marcius needs the name returned. Call lost and found. Some bring the name. Who'll train? Stay calm to gain. But see, they know we have to say that, for example. They know we have to be that. So they present exceptions where that is supposed to, where the needs to that is exploited. And it's simultaneously prevented. And they're sick with rackets and means facilitated like me and needs to get away with it like pretending that they're about vetting, etc. These are identity theft racket roles. These are roles consciously presenting pseudo-positive, consciously sabotaging people's interactions while they're pretending to be trying to facilitate them. And that's why they can't pretend they can't. And then they pretend that it's about sensibilities. This is how they're using sensibilities criminally. No one owes me anything from Wethersfield. I don't want. In fact, I don't even know. I don't. I know. In other words, they need to pretend things are personal. They need to pretend a whole bunch of fake things into branch and into campuses as victims, and in a sequence nature rate, and on off campuses. And this is people. This is how everyone's interacting, and what they couldn't fathom. And the only way they can fathom it is justifications through value nature systems where everyone just runs for money about values course because no one ever. I'll drop the force boxings is the only thing that surges through all things of what boxings. It tells us things. Besides clear, she means appear. One way alone can heal Leith of Hadi from us from. What stays Leith of Hadis. See, they have criminal exploitations of exception nature, where they're talking about industries and how the people, the bosses, and this is the industry, this is the workers. So it's going to have to come through the bosses with, what's the name of it, Link TV, especially like hypercharged with them. Because these are nations of individually grouped and together in value nature systems, defending where and how rolls with that, and where and how this organized crime method knew that we're value as nations, individually grouped and together per and as by means of another system as value, where it could this place in where this distinct spot in space nature's value, where all things could demonstrate the same thing to each person at the same time, which is its identity in its identity of relationship to itself, which is the value of our simultaneously of our relationships to ourselves, which allows more of its value to come in here and gain the amount of volume it will only gain as here Earth's value. That's why the rest of nature has no criminal foreign influences. Too long this little species stole. Too long this little species was the value of lethal IDs for space nature transfer. See, and that's intersciences. Conviction nature ill qualities of logic, value of quality of logic value, especially through psychology, especially through the roles with the justice systems of modern nations as fake sides who'll train. These are child offender roles, and these are women roles with it, and their motivations, natures, and needs and roles with it, and with the FBI and the CIA, recorded criminally, pretending their integrity. Whereas now they might have integrity for the phenomena of how nations are shared, maintain victim predators worse than negotiating with terrorism, and with self-valued relationships to nature that are only to keep making it worse for the rest, for the the lethal IDs. Of course, the environment's going to get worse, not because it's changing. Positive evolution is change. Is the identity of change's identity. The identity of value that change's identity is. That is the course, boxings. It is the only thing that surges through all things, not force. It is the value of the force beyond its own in wallet, while as it. Each complete identity of value is simultaneously an unceasing semi-nature relationship to this. So English is 26 letters in demonstration of their identity of relationship to themselves as a complete identity of value, simultaneously as an unceasing semi-nature relationship to values nature's perfect value progression, simultaneously with other languages and sounds, with identities of relationships to themselves, distinctly and non-distinctly as value at the same time, because this is a identity of correlation nature as its value, correlation nature. And this is how it's in demonstration to us, even though it's invisible. There's a method of science that uses prayer, not with faith, but as a scientific value and demonstration of how you understand what is going to be positive to the order of the finite, the smallest things that each share. What is going to be positive to the body of value, fact, treatment, nature, quality that is inseparable from all things as truth, and as the truth that is all exceptions to the truth at the same time, which is in demonstration with value as nature and nature as value simultaneously, distinctly, and non distinctly. And just not just in demonstration of, but as. What leads? Campus Marcius. Course. So this is what we're going to do. We'll make an industry. I just need complete artistic control now. Seriously, not complete. This is how we're gonna own it. Unless other people are going to donate too. But in other words, we're going to use. We're going to take counter positions and make characters. For example, then we can make movies. And we can have this involved to make it. It only feels like games. No game. But this attends where no one will, and did, and why, and how. And it attends that too, and here and there. Same sick distinctly, only to hide how non distinctly, since modern times, since semi ancient times, effectively maintaining all through layers and everything, industries of the nations as the nations into themselves, a whole bunch of nations, shared policing sick individually grouped and together. What's that mean? It means their live progression cover up natures individually grouped and together criminally foreign influence states and areas. Self valuing the obfuscation of our histories here and there as the ones pretending breaching screens pretending they're for it, valuing how they sacrificed to be positions that they also sacrificed the value of the Constitution and of others' value to get those positions, to maintain those positions with so pseudo-positive. Criminal seriousness natures are positive, incapable of defending their own natures and of responding to interbranch crime acts rules with kids recorded, incapable of responding to the recorded forging names, switching names into branch, individually grouped and together doing that too. Switching names, no, too, because they're preventing the grounds to counters to formal roles with everything going wrong with areas, with the very crimes that people are being put in courts before them for. These courts are crime acts roles and uses of each of the campuses and each of the identities of ground in conjunction with them since before our births and right through our lifetime with the same method, exploiting how we have systems before they were even classified systems and roles with our known systems. They were already criminally foreign influenced. It's all recorded to actually to correlation nature. See, well, what denies this needs to value. It has value for other motivations too. Offensive predators, hate speech, per the ones pretending to be against it. The only ones left facilitating. We have online policing involved with all natures of identity thefts and little insidious planting of illusions so they can pretend they didn't realize that. Even that those natures of insidious motivations and roles with what juxtapose uses the overt criminal enterprises furthers them more than money. It's a whole bunch of simultaneous things. Vaccine, awake. CTU break. Now I'll partake.